Hold on. I have a zombie king. The ultimate survival strategy. What's the greatest way to survive the apocalypse? When zombies arrived, I was living in my fortified concrete house, munching on corn and petting my dog. Down in the courtyard, the zombie king, lured by a hot dog dangling above his head, worked tirelessly, like a perpetual motion machine, plowing my fields. Oh, and not far off, my ex-boyfriend turned zombie wandered aimlessly through my orchard with a blank expression. Maybe I should make him plow too? At those words, the zombie king bared his teeth viciously, scaring my stiff ex-boyfriend so badly he bolted 3 miles away. Chapter 1. Evelyn, we need to break up. The grotesque gray-white bloody moss suddenly vanished, replaced by Damien's constipated expression. My mind echoed with emptiness. I hadn't yet escaped the terror of nearly being bitten by a zombie, my body trembling with cold shivers. My family is the wealthiest in the city, you know. The gap between us is just too wide. Hearing Damien's confident declaration, I suddenly laughed. I was alive. Not only alive, but somehow back 6 months before the zombie outbreak. Faced with life and death, being dumped by a scumbag no longer mattered. So under Damien's astonished gaze, I held out my palm. Emotional damages, $200,000. In 6 months, the zombie virus would break out. Population centers would be the first to fall, not just the threat of zombies, but human interactions would become dangerous too. This time I had 6 months. I absolutely wouldn't end up like my last life, starving, freezing, and ultimately dying in terror from zombie jaws. The most pathetic part? At the moment of death, the radio announced victory. I smiled helplessly, having no energy to dwell on the past. 6 months remained. I had to prepare everything for the sudden disaster. With Damien's $200,000, I redeemed the orchard my father had mortgaged before he died. Acres and acres of fruit trees, at least I wouldn't starve to death. The day I signed the contract, I hired a construction crew. I demolished the small wooden beekeeping cottage and built a concrete 5-story structure 2 floors underground, 3 above ground. Young lady, you're living alone, why such a big house? 3 floors would be enough. Uncle, the upper floors get too hot. When I harvest fruit, I need somewhere cool to store it before selling. Otherwise, it spoils. A root cellar would suffice for that. Not enough. Far from enough. Despite my insistence, the foreman brought in excavators from afar and dug 5 to 6 meters down, constructing 2 basement levels and drilling a well in the process. I insisted on the best materials and waterproofing. The walls were twice as thick as normal houses, windows were double-paned reinforced glass, and the perimeter wall stood 5 meters tall. Given my excessive requirements, construction took 5 full months. When finished, only 29 days remained until the outbreak. Looking at the completed structure, workers gossiped amongst themselves. Look at this house, tiny windows, walls thick as a bunker. How is this supposed to be a young lady's home? My heart sank. I swallowed my words. I couldn't let momentary softness trap me in danger. 2 days from now, October 7th, there would be a massive highway accident near Riverside. The suburban construction crew, all 57 people, would die. That's why I'd paid extra to specifically request this crew. 50-some people. Though I'd signed confidentiality agreements, once zombies broke out, someone would definitely target this place. My heart pounded with anxiety and guilt. The morning the crew left, the foreman placed a month-old puppy in my hands. Young lady, you seem to lack security. Raise a dog to guard your home. I actually wanted to refuse, afraid the dog's barking would attract zombies. But the little guy whimpered softly and licked my finger with his tongue. I melted instantly. Humans would struggle against zombies for 10 full years. Being alone would be too lonely. I gave the dog a hearty name, Lucky. Chapter 2. Uncle, I just checked the calendar. The next few days aren't auspicious for travel. If you're going out of town, wait a couple more days. That was all I could say. For the rest, I wished them luck. The moment the crew left, I drove my newly purchased pickup to go shopping. 29 days, so much to buy. First, the seed store. I bought 100 pounds each of corn and wheat seeds, several pounds of various vegetable seeds, plus common pesticides and farming tools. The next day, I hit the bookstore for dozens of texts on cultivation and animal husbandry, then bought several hundred fish fingerlings for the pond in my backyard. Over the following days, I rotated through the city's wholesale markets buying rice and grains in bulk, along with preserved foods that would last. I bought noodles, instant ramen, dried goods, and cooking oil enough to survive years of isolation. After securing food, I turned to infrastructure. Solar panels to cover my roof, a biogas system for waste processing and power generation, water purification equipment. Under the guise of various charitable donations, I bulk ordered sanitary supplies, compressed emergency rations, and basic necessities, making multiple trips daily to avoid suspicion. Before doomsday arrived, my final shipment came: knives, tools, and reinforced equipment. I breathed a sigh of relief and locked the gate tight. By now, month-old Lucky could follow me around everywhere. Fortunately, he took after me quiet and steady, not a barker. I was ready to hunker down and wait out the apocalypse. But 3 days after the outbreak, someone knocked on my courtyard gate. Chapter 3. A man and woman frantically pounded on the door. "Open up! Please open up! Help! There are zombies everywhere! I'm begging you! Have mercy! Let us in!" In the orchard, scattered wandering zombies were already creeping closer at the sound. The woman shrieked, barely managing to hold an iron axe in front of her. "Open the door! You cold-hearted people, are you going to watch your own kind get eaten by zombies?" Though disheveled, they weren't actually dirty. They seemed frightened but not panicked, and the axe bore thick bloodstains. More importantly, they had someone else in their car, an injured man. Standing upstairs with binoculars, I waited impassively for them to leave on their own. But after shouting for a while without leaving, they actually started chopping at my gate with the axe. "There's definitely someone inside. Won't open? I'll chop down your door. Then I'll come in and eat you. These lunatics." I grabbed a machete and watched. "Brooks, what do we do? Zombies are coming." "Stop screaming. Drag that one out of the car as a shield." "But he's my brother." Brooks glared at her. The woman immediately shut up and obediently dragged the bloody man from the car, placing him in front of them both. The man on the ground barely breathed. He struggled feebly to move backward before lying there powerless. "Damn it, I'll come back." Brooks struck another heavy blow with the axe. Seeing the gate unmoved, he angrily dragged the woman to their car and sped away. After brief consideration, I rushed downstairs, opened the gate, and dragged the injured man inside. Well, it was him, the Zombie King, that legendary figure who supposedly retained his humanity. Nobody knew that in the late apocalypse, some zombies would gradually recover their sanity and revert to human form. The Zombie King was the first. I only knew this because I was one of the humans who'd escaped from his hands. Kill me. Why? I was bitten, will become zombie. I pulled out his wallet, Landon Rivers. Besides a decent face, he had a poetic name. After sitting beside him thinking for a long while, I finally threw him into the hunting pit at my entrance before he fully transformed. If I had a zombie king, no other zombies would appear for miles around. Then I wouldn't have to worry about tilling fields or gathering supplies. Chapter 4. On the 5th day of being a zombie, Landon had completely lost interest in me, just lying on the ground playing dead. I experimentally tossed a stone down. He didn't even dodge. But when I threw down a chicken leg, Landon leaped up and caught it in his jaws. He was all ready. This fast? Worthy of becoming the Zombie King indeed. After feeding him one chicken leg, Landon seemed to fixate on me. Whenever I approached the pit, he'd stand up making hissing sounds. But my money didn't grow on trees. I couldn't afford to keep feeding him chicken legs. I started experimenting with training techniques, using scheduled feedings to establish patterns. After a week of consistency, Landon began showing signs of recognition, responding differently to my voice versus random sounds. Time to test my training results. I put on thick gloves and slowly extended my hand into the pit. Landon raised his head to sniff, slowly opening his mouth wide. My heart instantly leaped. Just as I was about to withdraw my hand, I saw him close his mouth with a confused expression. I brought down rabbit meat. He quickly bit the rabbit and swallowed it without hesitation. He recognized food. The next day, after feeding him full, I decided to release him. Though Landon had consistently shown almost no aggression toward me, I didn't dare be careless. I prepared 2 thick chains and fastened them around his neck, securing the other end to a stone pillar before opening the pit. The moment I pulled the pipes open, Landon shot up at invisible speed, charging straight at me. I was so frightened I instantly held my breath. Fortunately, the chain caught him. I just sighed in relief when I saw Landon confusedly pull at the chain. With a gentle tug, it broke in two. All color drained from my body. Landon walked toward me step by step, heavy and slightly staggering, as if unaccustomed to his own body. I gripped the machete, palms full of sweat. Strike or not strike? Once he became the zombie king, he'd regain his sanity. Killing him now, wouldn't that be a waste? While hesitating, Landon drew closer. I closed my eyes, shouted, and raised the blade to strike down. The blade shook violently, painfully jarring my palm, then shattered. I froze. Early zombies were still flesh and blood, but Landon already had skin like iron. Landon still looked confused. He walked straight forward and crouched down to eat the chicken leg that had fallen on the ground. A scene suddenly flashed through my mind, me hiding in supermarket ruins, picking up breadcrumbs. Landon had stood not far away then. I just wanted to die with a full stomach, but he'd thrown me a package of instant noodles. My first full meal after the apocalypse came from a zombie. I crouched down, holding my head. Having received the greatest kindness, I'd use the most malicious attitude to judge him, just because he was a zombie, even though he'd once saved me. Landon watched me with confusion. The chicken leg in his mouth no longer seemed appealing. After a long while, he slowly crouched before me, dropping the chicken leg directly in front of me. For me to eat? I tentatively reached for it. He had no reaction at all. After brief hesitation, I removed the chain from his neck. Chapter 5. When sleeping that night, I locked the door tight and didn't dare close my eyes. Lucky trembled with fear the entire time. Barely making it until sunrise, I looked from the balcony to see Landon sitting obediently at the entrance, like he was waiting for me to feed him. After hesitating, I brought him 2 hot dogs. Landon leaped up and caught them. As a zombie king, hot dogs were apparently his favorite food. After breakfast, I prepared to make tofu and cleaned the stone mill in the yard, hoping to have Landon push it. This zombie king was incredibly lazy and completely unwilling to work. I made him a hat with a dangling rod, hung a hot dog in front, and only then did he eagerly start pulling the mill. Because Landon ran so fast, he ground a full bucket in less than half an hour. After making the tofu, I decided to test whether he'd accompany me to pick oranges. Orange season was nearly over. If I didn't pick them soon, what a waste. I strapped a basket on Landon's back, tied a cart behind him, grabbed my machete, and headed to the orchard. I'd almost never seen zombies near my home, probably because of Landon's presence. Having picked a full cart and just celebrating, I heard a car engine in the distance. I pulled Landon into hiding, but heard chaotic shouting from below the mountain. Damn it, someone was raiding my base? I abandoned the oranges and rushed back with Landon. In the valley below, an SUV lay overturned, 2 blood-covered men struggling in a death struggle. The first to escape crawled to the roadside. The other gripped his ankle. He lifted a rock, aimed at the other's head, and crying, struck down hard. Brooks, don't blame me. Damien? Beside me, smelling blood, Landon became restless. I quickly pulled a hot dog from my bag and stuffed it in his mouth. Leading my increasingly peculiar zombie king, I hurried down to the valley, only to see Damien sprawled on the ground, his skin already turning ashen gray. Damien! Hearing his name, Damien slowly raised his head, struggling to crawl toward me. Save me. Evelyn, save me. He'd been bitten. There was no saving him. In just that moment of thought, Damien suddenly twisted grotesquely, slowly standing up to lunge at me. Newly zombified Damien had no sense, didn't even look at who stood beside me. In an instant, Landon slapped Damien aside. Damien shrieked as Landon pinned his head into the mud. Excellent, he would consciously save me. These days of hot dogs hadn't been wasted. Truly interesting. Beside Brooks's body, a male voice mixed with harsh static suddenly emerged. Who? I searched for the source, only finding what looked like a recording device at Brooks's waste-emitting sound. You? How did you do it? How did you raise a zombie king and make him obey you? Truly incredible. Besides me, someone else stockpiled so many supplies. He was in my house? I never imagined that in the apocalypse, someone would store so much food in advance and occupy such an excellent location. The voice struck like lightning into my heart. Just like you knew the apocalypse would come and made thorough preparations. Who are you? Chapter 6. No need to rush. You'll know soon enough. We'll meet very soon." Slowly, the walkie-talkie went silent. I stood frozen, goosebumps rising on my skin. I thought I'd built myself a safe haven, never imagining someone had been monitoring my life all along. Who was he? What did he want? Fear of the unknown felt like a hand strangling my throat. I had to get home first. Passing Damien, I hesitated before also tying him up. For the sake of that $200,000, and to see if all zombies could be trained like Landon. Back home, I wanted to throw Damien into the hunting pit. But Landon bared his teeth, absolutely refusing, even slapping Damien before jumping into the pit himself to claim the spot. Since digging another pit was impossible, I tied Damien firmly to the large tree outside the gate. After dealing with Damien, I rushed into the house. Everything seemed unchanged, but Lucky, who always greeted me, was nowhere to be seen. Lucky. After calling several times, I finally saw him crawl out from under the bed. Lucky had never been like this. During my absence, someone had definitely come. The gate showed no signs of forced entry. I carefully examined the high perimeter wall, finally discovering muddy footprints on top. Someone had climbed over my 5-meter wall, more than one person. They definitely weren't ordinary people. While I was worrying, Lucky started barking at the light bulb on my gate. I moved a ladder, removed the lamp cover, and found a tiny listening device inside. My heart raced. Holding Lucky, I searched the entire house, gradually finding several more surveillance devices covering every area. These things were smaller than fingernails. Without Lucky, I'd have been living under that person's surveillance indefinitely. Who were they? After an uneasy night's sleep, I decided to strengthen my security measures. The next day, I planned to take Landon out to work. But looking into the pit, my face turned green. The pit was littered with hot dog wrappers far more than what I'd given out. I'd been robbed by a zombie? Landon, I'll cut off your food supply. I angrily walked to the pit's edge, only then noticing something wrong with Landon. He lay there listlessly, his skin flushed red. Zombies could run a fever from overeating? While puzzling over this, Landon suddenly opened his eyes and shrieked, pressing his claws against the ground with force, immediately creating a deep crater. He leveled up again? Eating hot dogs could level him up? Chapter 7. I hadn't stored many hot dogs before, but conveniently there was a sausage processing plant about 20 kilometers away. That very day, I set out with Landon for supplies. The post-apocalypse city was desolate. I siphoned gasoline from abandoned cars using methods found online, filling all my containers before even reaching a gas station. But the hot dog factory had been swept clean. No choice, I dismantled the generator and had Landon help strip the factory's wire fencing. When I couldn't haul everything, I set my sights on Landon's waist, lean and powerful, perfect for hauling. I'd intended for Landon to serve as human transport, never expecting him to growl low, causing the wandering zombies around to slowly approach, then stop in an orderly fashion. He understood me and could command other zombies. Looking carefully at Landon's eyes, they seemed clearer than before. "You can understand me, right?" Landon remained quiet. I reached toward him, placing my hand over his chest cavity. It was silent as a wall, no temperature, no beating. Landon looked at me with confusion, slowly raising his hand and placing it on my chest. The beating seemed to fascinate him. He slowly approached, pressed his ear against it, and listened quietly. After a moment of breathlessness, I quickly stepped back. He was a zombie, not a person. Dead. No temperature. Couldn't speak. I took a deep breath, found rope, and carefully tied all the wire fencing to the zombies. Just like that, I drove the pickup leading hundreds of zombies home in a grand procession. What would have taken more than a week to haul was completed in one day. Chapter 8. Bringing the wire fencing back was easy, but installation nearly made me tear my hair out. By the time I'd spent half a month enclosing and electrifying it, Damien tied to the tree had withered. I'd completely forgotten his existence. I quickly killed a rabbit and tossed it over. Damien didn't get to eat it. Landon leaped up and caught it. Almost forgot this was also a hungry wolf. The lunch and meat cans I'd planned to eat over 3 years were all in his stomach in less than a month. Never thought I'd worry about feeding a zombie one day. Fortunately, I embarked with Landon on a journey to find hot dogs. I pulled out maps and found the 2 nearest farms, one 35 kilometers east raised chickens, another 42 kilometers south raised pigs. The chicken farm was empty, no chickens or eggs, just droppings and feathers everywhere. I didn't spare even the chicken droppings, shoveling them for fermenting biogas. I packed all the feed, dismantled the incubators, and removed the surveillance equipment before leaving. After raiding the chicken farm, I drove toward the pig farm. Arriving, I found similar desolation, but I heard pig grunting from wall cracks. Under a beam from the collapsed pen, a large sow lay on the ground. By her belly, several skinny piglets were suckling. Jackpot! I had Landon lift the roof and caught the piglets. When I tried to get his help with the sow, he looked disgusted and wouldn't budge. "You're a zombie and you're picky about dirt?" I rolled my eyes and dragged the sow onto the cart myself. Returning home fully loaded, I immediately placed the fertilized eggs in the incubator that night. Only after feeding Landon did I remember Damien. I forcibly snatched the rabbit head from Landon's mouth to feed him. Landon seemed extremely annoyed, following me with fierce grunts. At bedtime, he blocked my door, refusing to leave. Landon! Angry, I poked hard at his chest, suddenly feeling a strange sensation. His chest cavity. I froze, slowly bringing my ear closer. Silence. Just as I was about to give up, a heavy beat passed by my ear. Landon's skin remained ice cold, his complexion still ashen, yet somehow he'd developed a heartbeat. Spending a full half hour, I counted averaging 1 beat every 30 minutes. What caused these changes? Time or food? Chapter 9. The next day I'd planned to continue searching for supplies, but waking to find the sow dead, I had to process it. I gave the meat directly to Landon and Damien. Damien ate with relish, but Landon seemed unenthusiastic. He loved hot dogs and luncheon meat. Suddenly, I thought of a place. Before returning to the countryside, I'd lived in an apartment complex. Next door lived an e-commerce seller whose products were hot dogs and luncheon meat. Might she still have inventory? Since the safe zone was established in T-City, most people had relocated there. Our city only had scattered wandering zombies. Some e-commerce warehouses remained fully stocked. Seeing a room full of luncheon meat and hot dogs, Landon's eyes lit up. He extended his long claws, popped them open, and ate. In the room, my zombie neighbor, starved, thin, trembled. Not knowing if she'd be lucky, I fed her some pork and left 100 cans. Her inventory filled my truck. Landon ate continuously the entire way. Passing a mall's bridal shop, I smashed the glass and picked out a reasonably fitting suit for him. Once the suit was on and some color applied, you couldn't tell he was a zombie at all. If he could really make it through these 10 years. Forget it. Who knew if he'd be that lucky one who could return to life? Just live like this. Having him around isn't bad. On the road back, I saw huge tire tracks on the ground. My heart leaped to my throat. That person had come. Sure enough, shortly after entering the orchard, we were surrounded by armed people. Soothing the agitated Landon, I obediently followed them back home. Around my house were many large trucks. The courtyard gate had been pried open. In the yard, large iron cages sat atop my garden, containing dozens of zombies. Looking up at the sunny courtyard, a man in a white lab coat leaned against the window frame, leisurely drinking my soda. We stared at each other across the yard. He raised his glass. Cheers. Get in. Someone behind me shoved hard, angering Landon. Fortunately, I quickly grabbed his arm. With my arrival, the yard filled with zombies' hungry howls. But normally they feared Landon. Why dare howl at me now? Had Landon leveled up again, making the zombies unable to recognize him? Chapter 10. Where's your zombie king? The man asked seemingly casually, but his eyes stared straight at Landon. Oh, added a new member to the family? He didn't seem to recognize Landon. What exactly do you want? The man smiled, poured himself another soda, and pointed at Damien, caged separately. Don't be so tense. I'm just curious about my experiment's results. Wanted to see if you could train another zombie king. Only then did I understand Damien's appearance wasn't coincidental. Who are you? Dr. Victor Brenner. Though everyone prefers calling me Dr. Brenner. Dr. Brenner. Could he be that scientist who developed mutant zombies? Why me? Oh, that question you can only blame your inadequate security. Someone escaped to the E-City base and reported your situation. E-City, the nation's largest survivor base. But in the 8th year of the apocalypse, the zombie king suddenly appeared, causing E-City base to fall. Dr. Brenner, carrying numerous mutant zombies, died when his vehicle overturned during escape. Landon wasn't a completely mindless zombie. Why would he target a survivor base 8 years from now? What grudge existed between them? Initially, I was just curious whether you were preparing for the apocalypse. Never expected to discover the Zombie King 1 in 10,000. Absolutely unique. Even 1 month into the outbreak, he could judge from Landon's slight differences that he was the Zombie King. Earlier on the walkie-talkie, he'd said also. Could he also be reborn? I think we're alike in some ways. Dr. Brenner smiled, pointing at the zombie cages. Miss Monroe, we could cooperate. I'll give you maximum security guarantees. You tell me how to tame zombies and cultivate the Zombie King. How about it? My mind raced. I can't trust your security guarantees, but perhaps we could try a different cooperation method. You give me weapons, I give you the method. Dr. Brenner seemed surprised, but quickly agreed. Then I must impose on Miss Monroe for some time. Still wants free room and board? Just pay rent 50 cans of luncheon meat per person per day. Can prepay monthly or pay daily. Dr. Brenner smiled, snapping his fingers. Someone behind him promptly produced an entire wall of luncheon meat cans. Combined with what was in my truck, enough to feed Landon well. Dr. Brenner, I'm a woman after all, not used to cohabiting with others. Please don't enter the house. Thinking of the surprise coming his way, I smiled sweetly and went upstairs with Landon. You want to train zombies? I'll train you a whole pack. Chapter 11. That very night, I had Landon demolish half a truckload of luncheon meat cans. Landon's entire skin flushed red, his eyes becoming even clearer. Life and death situation, you must listen to me tomorrow. I squeezed Landon's face, surprisingly finding some softness. Was he truly transforming into a human? I pressed my ear to his chest, eyes on the clock. In 30 minutes, his heart beat twice. Dazedly sitting up, Landon stubbornly pressed his head back to my chest. Like he feared I'd take advantage. Whatever I did, he had to do back. I stiffened. After a long moment, an almost inaudible breath fell on my chest. I admit I overreacted, but my palm had already struck Landon's face. He blinked in confused incomprehension, looking somewhat wronged. Fortunately, he wasn't obsessed with slapping me back. Early the next morning, I directed several of Dr. Brenner's subordinates to help with chores before sitting face to face with him. Can we begin? I nodded, embellishing the story of feeding Landon. Dr. Brenner pondered, looking unwilling to believe. I demonstrated using Damien. Sit down. Damien obediently sat. Stand up. Damien obediently stood. How did you do this? Doctor. Brenner still wouldn't believe. Whether hunger, food temptation, even electric shock, I've tried everything. It's impossible to achieve this effect. Believe it or not, I did it. Dr. Brenner fell silent before having people bring out several heavy boxes. One box held 10 guns. The remaining 2 contained bullets and grenades. Not knowing whether these were real, I could only accept them. As long as he couldn't successfully tame zombies, he couldn't move against me. One more question, where's your Zombie King? Dr. Brenner asked, eyes boring into Landon. I gripped Landon's hand. Seeing him involuntarily grin, I gave him a brilliant smile. People need some survival tricks, don't they? Dr. Brenner laughed coldly. Miss Monroe, this is the apocalypse. So many people struggling to survive. Do you know how important Zombie King research is to ending this? Dr. Brenner personally opened this hell mode. Why demand I play the saint? He froze, suddenly bent over, clutching his stomach in laughter. You're smarter than I thought. I wasn't smart. I'd just experienced more and knew more. Those 10 apocalypse years piecing together known events made it easy to discover the so-called apocalypse was never natural disaster but human catastrophe. This man deserved death 10,000 times over. Chapter 12. That night, exceptionally quiet all around. I knelt on the bed, pressing my forehead hard against Landon's, trying to transmit my thoughts to him. I discovered something: the closer to him, the better his language comprehension. You must help me. I cupped his head and mentally reviewed the plan. Landon remained very quiet. Eyes everywhere outside. I didn't dare risk saying another word. Did he understand? Landon blinked, involuntarily curving his mouth. Only then did I relax. He was the Zombie King, able to issue commands to other zombies. Since the plan was complex, I could only hope his comprehension scored full marks. The next day, I rose early, deliberately patrolling the perimeter under the pretense of collecting firewood. Only after hearing complete silence in the orchard did I relax. He understood. For several days, I made excuses to go out, but never did anything suspicious, returning obediently home. After repeating this over a week, training Damien showed no progress. Dr. Brenner started suspecting me. Miss Monroe's method seems ineffective. I pretended embarrassment and nervously left. That night, while they fed Damien rabbit, I secretly slipped him medicine. The next training session, Damien was noticeably more obedient. Never expected that after just one day, Miss Monroe's method would work again. I returned to my room looking unhappy, secretly jubilant inside. Go search for your so-called secret. I guarantee you a big surprise. Animals and plants had started mutating after the apocalypse. Initially, nobody noticed until mid to late period when people began researching. If Dr. Brenner was truly reborn, he'd likely recognize which were mutant, but not know their effects. Seeing me feed zombies mutant plants, he'd definitely order collection for secret research. Once his people scattered, I could eliminate them one by one. Sure enough, that afternoon Dr. Brenner's people departed in batches. Landon's zombie minions had already ambushed the mountains. With the Zombie King's guidance, zombies would silently surround them. By nightfall, not one returnee. Dr. Brenner sensed abnormality and directly smashed through my door with people. Chapter 13. But what he saw wasn't me, it was the surveillance equipment in my room. Dismantled from the pig farm, I'd repaired it well. Evelyn, you dare deceive me? Dr. Brenner shot the monitor. As expected, such a temper. Landon and I hid in the woods. Landon secretly eliminated Dr. Brenner's subordinates, while I constantly changed positions. His vehicles couldn't enter. He'd pursue on foot, but was very cautious, wouldn't easily follow. Discovering my home had surveillance, he'd suspect I'd made other preparations and would hide in his car. But during these days training Damien, Landon had already instructed Damien to place cylinders containing sevoflurane in the vehicle. Once he entered, Damien would turn the valve. When gas leaked, Dr. Brenner would lose consciousness. When I returned home, everything had quieted. Opening the car door, preparing to drag out the bodies, a gun pressed against the back of my head. My whole body trembled. Turning my head, I discovered it was actually Dr. Brenner. Didn't expect that? I stiffened. Tell me, where's your zombie king? How did you tame him? How did he become the zombie king? Speak. He struck my head hard with the gun barrel. Clutching my head through waves of dizziness, I pulled out my waist gun and fired, but it made an empty sound. You thought I'd give you a real gun? Dr. Brenner laughed coldly, aiming at me. Won't speak? Fine. Sooner or later, I'll research it. As gunfire rang out, a black shadow firmly blocked before me. Landon. Landon looked down confusedly at the deflected bullet on the ground, first instinct being to help me up. Dr. Brenner stared at his gun in disbelief. You're fine? Shot and you're fine? You're not human. You're a zombie. But why aren't other zombies afraid of you? Who exactly are you? I gripped Landon's hand, struggling to stand. He's the zombie king. After long silence, Dr. Brenner suddenly laughed. Impossible. If he's the zombie king, why don't other zombies react? Because he evolved. Slowly evolving toward humanity. Evolving toward humanity? I worked so hard, finally created zombies, and you tell me they're evolving toward humanity? Then what's the point of everything I did? Lies. You're lying. Dr. Brenner angrily cursed, raising his gun at Landon's head for several shots. Even good-tempered Landon got angry, slapping Dr. Brenner, flying several meters. Dr. Brenner crashed into my gate with force. Great, the gate was bent. Where would I find someone to fix doors these days? Angry, I stomped on Landon's foot, hurting my soul. Impossible, impossible. Dr. Brenner still rolled on the ground. Outside the gate, Landon's zombie minions had assembled, including newly joined former subordinates. Landon actually lifted Dr. Brenner, imitating how I fed him rabbits, and tossed him to the zombie minions. Before I could stop it, Dr. Brenner was divided up. I still wanted to ask if he was truly reborn. Forget it, one last task remained. I drove the weapons-loaded vehicle to the road entrance and set it ablaze. With the explosion's roar, the only road into the orchard collapsed. Probably nobody would disturb my peaceful days now. Come on, Landon, time to feed pigs and rabbits. Better fatten them quick or you'll run out of food. Oh, right. Have your minions help me clear land. Can't afford raising so many idle zombies. No work means no food. Chapter 14. 10 years gone in a flash. I fiddled with the radio on the table, absolutely furious. Landon, did you take the nut I left on the table? This guy copied me fixing radios. I'd barely repaired it before he dismantled it again. Landon blinked his big eyes, looking extremely innocent. Lucky, search. Lucky sniffed around his feet and immediately barked. He did take it. Under my threatening gaze, Landon reluctantly produced the nut. I assembled all the radio components. Inside came crackling sounds. Signal? Trying to adjust the frequency, suddenly a male voice emerged from the radio. And 185 frequency resumes broadcasting today. Today is October 1st, 2032. As of today, the decade-long zombie disaster is officially over. Humanity has finally achieved ultimate victory. I stared blankly at the torn calendar on the wall. 10 years. Finally over. I turned to Landon, who stood by the window watching Lucky chase rabbits in the yard below. His profile caught the afternoon light skin still pale, movements still slightly stiff, but so much more human than the creature I'd pulled from that pit a decade ago. Landon. He turned toward me, head tilting in that familiar questioning gesture. We won, I said quietly, though the word felt strange in my mouth. Victory. What did that even mean now? The radio crackled on about reconstruction efforts, safe zones expanding, research into reversal treatments for the infected. I watched Landon's face for any reaction, any sign he understood what this meant. His heartbeat had grown stronger over the years, once every few minutes now instead of half an hour. His comprehension had sharpened. Sometimes I caught him watching me with an expression I couldn't quite name. They're saying, they might have found a way to reverse the infection. For some of you. Landon moved closer, that same gentle curiosity in his eyes. He raised one hand nails shorter now, more human, and placed it over my chest like he'd done so many times before, feeling the rhythm of my heartbeat. Then he took my hand and pressed it to his own chest. Thump, 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 steady, alive, impossible. Landon. He smiled an actual smile, not the involuntary grin from before. Then he did something he'd never done in 10 years. He spoke. Evelyn. My name. Rough, unpracticed, barely more than a whisper. But mine. The radio continued its broadcast about humanity's victory, about the end of the nightmare, about returning to normal. But standing there in my fortified house with my zombie king who'd learned to say my name, I realized normal had been redefined a long time ago. And maybe that wasn't such a terrible thing after all. The end.